Hey guys, we're trying this again. Always some technical difficulties with it. So if you guys can hear us, just give us a little thumbs up or a like or a little hey there. Can you hear now? All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. We're still going to jump right in it. So our topic today is being who God called you to be. We're going to jump right into the topic where our first part is you have to believe in yourself and the God you serve and the God in you. Proverbs 3:5-6 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him. So my first question for you guys is, how do you maintain confidence in God when prayers about what he has for you seems unanswered?
Who wants to go first?
Yes, the guest first.
That's a real good question. Lord help me. I would have to say it would be keeping the promise at the forefront. Even though it doesn't look like what God said it's going to be, in the end, you kind of have to just keep apostolely. It would be, if you don't like what you see, change what you say. So even if what you are dealing with now doesn't look like the promise, you have to keep rehearsing the thing.
I like that.
That's my thing.
That's good.
So me personally, I've always been kind of like Apostle, kind of like my dad. Like, you're gonna trust God no matter what, and you're gonna go through it. But there's always been times where you're praying and you're fasting, you're going through everything you know how to do, and it just doesn't seem like God, where you at? God, what's he gonna do? And then it's just a big, here I am. So the biggest thing for me is not to wait for the here I am, but not to doubt creep in, not to let those thoughts that the devil puts in your mind, like, oh, you think you know God and you don't really, and then you're stuck and you feel like you're stuck and you're stagnant. But really, he's just, it's like, I like the caterpillar and the butterfly uh, uh, analogy. Like, you're pretty much in the cocoon during this time, during the test, during the time that's hard. Like, you're pretty much taking the time that God is putting to the side and grooming you for the next thing that he has prepared. But until you take the time to ask God, what have you called me to be? What have you called me to do? And and even if you don't hear the answer, it's he's gonna give you the answer and he's gonna get you to the next stage of your life. But it's all about trusting that and knowing that it's not in your understanding. Jeremiah 29:11. I feel like I said the right verse sometimes, but for he for I know the plans that I have for you. Thank you. So, and then it's like, so even though people say like make a plan and God laughs, I always find weird because it's like he already knows what he's gonna do, which is why he laughs. But it's like he puts in your mind where he wants you to go, and you're just asking him questions. You're asking him the right questions, but it's all about, do you truly believe what you're asking God to do for you, or are you just asking the questions because you're stuck or you feel stuck?
When you both were talking, what kept ringing in my ears was, I guess you got to check your heart. It's a faith walk. It's a faith thing. Faith comes by hearing and hearing by the word of God. And I mean, it's, you know, with the life of faith, you have to be fully persuaded. It's going to be uncertain. You're not going to know which way. God's going to tell you one thing, told you it's the end of the thing, right? You have to walk through the steps. And I guess like with holding on, I think in the midst of the process of that, like you believe, you have to have faith. It's you don't, and you know, just really see like trust him. Do you really believe the God that created you, the God that knows everything about you, the God that he's the creator of everything, he owns everything, and do you truly believe what he has over your life? And if you can truly trust him and know, then be able to walk this thing out by faith and not by sight.
A lot of the steps and things that we have for you guys are all hand in hand. Like the second one is know what you want, but trust what God has planned for you, which goes hand in hand with the first one. Proverbs 16:9, the heart of man plans his way, but the Lord establishes his steps. So even though Pop always says, write it down, make it plain. So you can write it down, make it plain, and just keep asking God, keep asking him, keep praying. Like, God, what do you have for me? What is the call? What am I to do for you, God? Like, even though we all have our own outside hobbies and outside things, everything we do, God still uses this. Like I'm a chef, but a lot of times when I'm put into a kitchen, I already know I'm there for a reason. And even though there's sometimes I've been in kitchens where I hated working there, I'd be like, God, why am I working here? Like where I work at now. But there's always somebody there to minister to where I work at now. There's always somebody there who needs prayer, or they'll be like, or they'll be going through something, and I just know to put it on my heart, pray for them, and then it's always for God. Like even a lot of like the last place I worked for a assisted living slash like a retirement community, and the chef that I worked for, we always called him a little troll because he was a very angry dude, and like he was a cool guy. Like, I loved him, but he was just a very angry guy, and it was like we just ministered to him through food, through pasta cake, Ma's cakes, and making him cakes, sweet potato pie, banana pudding all the time, and just praying for him and stuff all the time. And he had a he had a little his own issues and stuff. I won't disclose. I don't want to put nobody's business out there, but he had his own issues and stuff. Felt like I connected and prayed for him. It was like the more he got through issues, and then it was like now I'm not there, but I get all these stories about what he's going through now, and it's like, well, only thing we can really do is pray for him, because that's I was there for while God had me there, but now I'm moved on to a different place in my career as a chef, and I want to build my career as a chef, but I also know I'm where I'm at because God placed me there. I think so. I think that's just a big part of just knowing what God has called you to do, is just knowing how to go with where He has you placed, and just taking up what He has for you and just walking with it.
In the process, isn't it what your shirt is thinking?
Perfect in the process. And it's funny because we was just talking about that on the way here, and the whole process of it all, and just going through the fire, going through the beating, going through the pressing, and not even understanding the reason or the purpose behind it. But at the end of it, you still end up trusting God. And you know it's for a purpose. You know it's for somebody else, because you're not going through the process just for you. you're going through that process so that way another person, another generation, another nation can be touched through whatever it is that God has called you to do. And then, even listening to Manny when he was like saying, know what you want, but trust in God. And I can literally just hear PK in the back of my head where she's just like, the Bible tells you that God will give you the desires of your heart. She says, but I believe that even in that, God will give your heart what's a desire.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, it's not your will, but it's God's will. And if He's the author and the finisher of your faith, and He knows your ending before your beginning, then at the end of the day, whatever you desire is going to line up with the will of God. Like you have to, it's pressing past the emotions to get to the will of God. I had a whole fit 15 minutes before leaving the house because I'm battling between my emotions and the will of God, knowing that this is where I'm supposed to be. But I'm like, God, I don't want to do this. You got the wrong one today because this, I don't see how I fit in this. So it's like pressing past the emotional part, even though you know what you want. At the end of the day, you may get an inkling of it, or it's like you may get something at the end of the day, but it's like, so that's really what I wanted instead. Like, this is what I said I wanted, but when God actually gives you what you need, it's like, I understand that.
So this we kind of already answered the question, but I'm still gonna ask it anyways because I see Chris got that look in his eye, like he got a good question answer to the question. So the question for this step is, how do you balance faith in God while also taking practical steps in your life?
Um, I think one of the most important things, I'll say this. Faith in God. I'm sorry. Say it again. Faith in
So the
I
the
still
question is
I still got the very first question in my head.
so the question is, how do you balance faith in God while taking practical steps in your life?
Okay. Um, Balancing your faith in God while taking practical steps in your life. Um, I think faith. One of the things about faith is it teaches you several amount of things. It teaches you patience. It teaches you how to love. And when I say love, I mean develop a love and a level of understanding of why God has you waiting or in a season of what you're in, if that makes sense. Because, in order to have faith, faith without works is dead. And it's without faith, it's impossible to please God. And one of the ways, again, to please God is through faith. If you have faith, that is how your connection with God grows. Because in your faith is where you're pleasing Him. And when you see that you're pleasing Him, you begin to, again, unlock another level and connection in God, where it becomes just a step up, a never ending cycle of evolving in Christ, all because of faith. Um, I think that one of the things in our life is that we sometimes get caught up in having faith for, a particular thing, and waiting on that thing instead of, and I'll just say this because for lack of better terms, enjoying the ride.
Mm-hmm.
So, and what I mean by enjoying the ride, I'm saying like, again, faith is a way to connect with God. It is your connection with God because without faith, it's impossible to please Him. So, in your faith of you waiting for whatever it is for God to speak to you about your next move, enjoy the connection you're building with Him. And that will be your way to put Him first in all things. So, when you finally get the thing that God is giving you, you won't replace it as God.
Right.
I like that. And then you said just walk with it. So I'm gonna skip one of the things because you just jump right into another one of the steps. I'm gonna skip the third one because the third one kind of I don't follow. but I need to work on that. We're gonna jump back to it, but I'm gonna go to this fourth one where it's just go for it, which is pretty much enjoy. I see it as just enjoying what God has for you and just waiting for Him to bless you. Because honestly, I my take on life is I'm fine with where I'm at, but I can't wait for the to manifest itself. Because I say to Chris all the time, "Oh, just wait," because when the blessing manifests itself, I'm not gonna say nothing, but there's gonna be signs. So, Second Chronicles 15:7 says, "Be strong and do not give up, for your work will be rewarded." James 1:12 says, "Blessed is the one who preserves under trial, because having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life." So my question for y'all is, what are some specific ways you have seen God provide or guide you in challenging times?
Read it one more time.
What are some specific ways you have seen God provide for you or guide you in challenging times?
Well, I remember before we came to the place where we were at, and I think many people, they don't believe me when I say this, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. I'm a single mother, 3 girls, and it's challenging out here. You know, you got all these bills, rent. Rent is the highest of the highest. What, about 2,000 a month, 2,600 a month. Well, thank God I don't have to pay that right now. But I remember the time where God provided for me and my girls for 4 years. We lived in our apartment for about 4 years, and I didn't have to pay rent. And I think that right there, first of all, how we even got into the place was nothing. It was walking by faith and not by sight. I knew from the beginning by sight I could not pay this rent, Lord. Lord, how am I supposed to pay this rent? I can barely pay the car note, Jesus. Like, but I think in that moment, like, it was, He was teaching me faith. He was teaching me to trust Him. When you have all these bills, but your income don't add up to the bill, to what you need to pay.
Not even half of what you
Listen, He taught me some stuff. Listen, y'all gotta work on this because I'm so never gonna get in the questions. That's right with that.
Look, you saw you had to cue me in because I was
Alright, we still live.
like,
I'm sorry, y'all. We usually don't have this much technical difficulties, but as Minister Mikeria was saying, God has brought her through some great and troubling times. She was talking about how God put her in a place where she didn't even know how she was going to pay rent. She didn't know she had the car note. She's a single mother, 3 kids, and it was getting good. So yeah, we're gonna let her jump right back into where she was at.
Yes, so uh, God made it, it was in that place where God, He showed me how to trust Him. He made ways out of no ways. I think that was like the beginning of me walking by faith and not by sight. But it's bigger than that, besides the bills and everything. It was, it's something that He was trying to get through my head because I was dependent on a job to get me through. And I seen Him as my source, but then I kind of didn't. You kind of rely on the resource more than the source. And in that place, it was the time where, I mean, He took me through a lot to get me to being in this place of walking in faith. Um, He told me to quit my job. Oh my gosh, that scared me. That scared my life. I didn't know how I was gonna make it, but I went on this journey of faith with Him, and I seen it through to the end. Um, I seen it through to to the place where I'm at now. It's a journey, it's a process, and He was revealing Himself through everything that I was going through, everything He was putting me through. Um, so just relying on Him and depending on Him as my source.
And I think that's one of the most troubling and hardest things for anybody who thinks logically and practically to do is rely on God when you don't have enough. Because I didn't want to tell this testimony, but He's telling me to tell it. So in January, I got offered a job opportunity to where I was told I was going to be making $55K a year. When you're a chef and you're making $20 an hour, you see that 55K, you don't read details. So it was on my part. I didn't read details to the job, but I get the first 2 checks, they look great. And then that third check, it was $300. And I said, uh, so I called Chris and I was like, my check was on $300. He was like, well, maybe it was back pay. I was like, no, I don't know what back pay is. But if I get another check $300, I'm gonna go back to cooking. So in my shame and in my own thing, I'm telling people like this is what I'm making, and I'm trying to put on what I said because I didn't have the faith to where God was showing me this is I have you here because it's something I need you to learn, and I think it's something I need to learn to make me some money, but it's something He was telling me I need you to learn how to have faith when you don't know what to do, because you've had you've been put in places to where you've been stable. You lived with your parents. You've always had a good job. So I have you in a place now to where you have to really rely on me to provide for your family. And as a man, it's like, God, I see you, but I see my wife working almost 7 days a week, sitting in front of her computer, taking care of a baby, and we got a dog. So, and then I'm bringing in only $300-$500 a week, standing outside trying to get people to provide funding for a nonprofit that I can't even get access to work for because they outsource workers and they're paying them only by commission. So when I brought it up to the directors, I'm like, you guys told me this is what I'm supposed to be making. They were like, you'll make this when you reach this level in the company. So then, okay, I was like, all right, God, well, maybe I got to reach this level in the company. So I'm working. I don't work 7 days a week, 2, 3 weeks in a row, trying to make this amount so I can make this amount on my check so we could pay bills. And it's like, God, what am I doing wrong? Like I'm with the company. I'm doing everything you're asking, but what is it that you want from me? And he's like, I want you to know who I am as a provider, as Jireh, which which is like, God, I know you provide. I've seen you do it for everybody. I've seen you've done it for me. He's like, I have not done things in the capacity that you need done. We were we were like a month and a half behind on rent, and we were like 2 months behind on the car note. Phones were off, and I hate having my phone off because I like to drive around and listen to music. So that's like the hardest thing to do for me. So I'm like, all right, God, what is it that is gonna break through for us to not be in the place that we have? Do we have to wait for tax returns? Do we have to wait for her refund? Like, what is it? And he's like, those aren't those aren't your sources of those aren't things that are providing you what you need. He's like, during this time you only talk to me when things get hard, but where have you been? Where were you when you were on top of the world and things felt good? like like he literally like punched me in the heart with this, because he's like, you ran, you shouted, and then you left me because you thought you got something that was deserving to where you would needed to go to the next level. And I was like, God, I still prayed. I still talked to you. I still said good morning. He's like, no, you prayed when things got hard, but you lost consecration, and you lost your personal time with me because you got so focused on making money, and you allowed money to control where you wanted to go instead of allowing me to show you where to go next. So then I thought I was in a place where I was like, God, please don't let us lose the apartment. Please don't let us lose the car. Like, if anything, I'll sleep in the car. Let them have somewhere to stay. Like, if I got to take my name off the lease and let her have the name, like, I was saying all these things, pleading to God. And he's like, I'll provide another source of income for you, but I need you to go back to a place to where you are consecrated and where I know you again. Because right now I don't know who you are. So there comes in times in your life to where you may think you trust God, and then when he tells you, I don't know who you are right now because you have not talked to me lately. Where do you stand in those times? Because those are the times where your faith is tested. Those are the times where you really need to know what to do. And those are times where people get stuck. Those are the times where you're at the altar every Sunday and you're back to the same thing on Monday. So where are you at in the real hard times where God will say, I will leave you if you don't come back to me?
Oh,
Because I don't even know what to say after that, after something like that. I mean, I guess um even just listening to both of y'all stories, it's kind of like I can low key relate to both, honestly, because I am so many years grown. I tell everybody 25, and I lived a good life, y'all. I can't really complain too much. I was very stable and very spoiled in a lot of different ways in life. And even, once I got married, it was like my husband took care of bills. There was a time where I was bringing home more money than he was. But even at that, it was like we still trust God, and God, we faced eviction several times. God still made it work. And, God did what he did. And then my mom and my husband made life real easy for me. And to the point to where I was like, when COVID hit and the kids were out of school for that year, I quit my job and I was home with the little girl for that year. Um, and things were still okay. And then my husband passed, and now I'm looking like being an adult is ghetto. I'm serious. Being an adult is ghetto. Like what is this? Where was the fine print? When did I
Not what
sign?
I fantasized growing
I
up.
don't think I signed on the dotted line for any of this. So I'm real life confused as to what I'm out here doing. And granted, even after he passed, I was still able to be out of work for a couple of months. Then I started working, and then I was like, rent got to be paid, and light bill, food, kids eat all the time. Like y'all ain't never not hungry. So I'm like, God, what is this? And then my mom was still helping out a little bit, and then my mom, she moved away. So then it was just me and my sister, and I'm like, we both looking at each other like, what we gonna do? We finally moved, and things are okay up until about October of last year, and lights get cut off, and I'm like, and to me, I'm like, whatever, because I'm used to lights being turned off because it was just how I came up. But a lot of the times the lights got turned off, not because of we ain't had the money. I just forgot to pay the bill. But this time I'm looking like, what is we looking like? Where the money went? Where did we go wrong? Where did we go left? We were supposed to go right. And then we looking at eviction notices up on the door. Like, God, this is ghetto. We got 2 kids. This is real life ghetto. But one thing that we have definitely learned throughout this process is work the principle. The principles always work. And it's in that moment where I legit watch God, like, for her. Like I say I ain't never said it publicly to her, but in my brain I was like, I'm just along for the ride. Like I'm hanging onto your coattail. I'm watching God bless you. Like I'm watching God because I'm being honest, I still struggle with paying my tithes. And like I'm just now getting back to where I'm trying to be consistent at. And I watched this girl even when she had nothing, still pay her tithes. And we looking like, what we gonna get for dinner? Like we making $1.15, right? Like we making beanies and weenies with rice, and now we're trying to feed because our kids gotta
Rice
eat.
and beans.
Listen, our kids gotta eat. So we looking like we'll have water and bread, but these kids gotta eat. So I'm watching her. We going to the store with $20, and we coming out with meals for like 3 days. So like I'm watching God open doors, even in the midst of it. But that's like the last time we faced eviction. When I tell you, we called everybody. It was like y'all got to 3 o'clock, or you and your stuff is on the sidewalk. We called everybody. And we looking like, God, please, 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 we cannot be on the street. And God, he opened up a door, literally last minute. And I watched God like raises and bonuses that she wasn't even expecting. Like this ain't even my testimony. I'm telling my sister's testimony right now. Because I'm riding the coattail because I'm watching God do a thing, and it's like I'm learning through different life experiences of my own and of other people of who God really is. Like they say it all the time. When the angels bow down and they say, holy, 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 every time they get up, they see a different facet of who he is. Every time you think you know who God is, you think you know him as Jehovah Jireh, as Rapha, as Elohim, as Adonai, as Yahweh. He still shows you another facet of who you thought you knew he was. And I'm like, it is just mind blowing. And even with yourself, like you think you've come to a place to where you're like, I know who I am. Because they ask you that growing up, who are you? You're always quick to say your name, and they're like, no, but who are you really? I really don't know. And it's like God is even dealing with me right now. It's like a mirror, and God is like, you still got that going on. You still got that going on. I need you to fix that right there. And I'm like, okay, God, I thought we dealt with this. Why are we back here? Why are we here? And he was like, okay, we dealt with this in that area. You overcame that, but you still dealing with this when it comes to this. Because y'all think just because God deals with you in unforgiveness or pride or bitterness in a specific area that you're over, you're done with that until another situation raises its head and you're like, maybe I'm not quite over some of this stuff. So that's kind of where I am right now. Like God is like legit, like, look at yourself. Look at yourself. And I always know when God is about to like mirror me when I have a hard time looking at my own self physically in a mirror. When I can't even look at myself in a mirror, I'm like, all right, God, what's up? Because I don't want to prolong this. Like, what you got going on? I already know what the drill is, so just tell me what it is, so I can just go ahead. I can go ahead and go through deliverance or whatever you need me to do, so I can fix this because I don't like it. I don't like feeling like I'm under a microscope. So God, help me. What do I need to learn? What is it that you need to work on? What do I need to surrender and give up? Because we always like, God, take it, take it, take it. And he's like, I'm not taking nothing. I need you to give me that thing.
Jesus. I'm not gonna lie. I ain't got nothing to say right now. I know Chris got something to say. Chris over there, that leg shaking. I feel it all the way over here.
Like it's like hearing all you guys' testimonies. It puts me like in several different thought modes and processes that like God has helped you to overcome some amazing things and some hard situations. Not to say that I haven't had any hard situations to go through. I do, but sometimes, and this is a personal thing, I tend to minimize what I'm going through in comparison to what someone else is.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, God, I know like I'm going through it in this area and I'm struggling and I know this is going on, but my brother over here is going through it worse. My sister over here is struggling to pay this and to do that. And I have struggles, but it may not be the same struggle. So it's like, sometimes it feels like, how dare you even talk about that compared to what they're going through. But then again, it's in the same breath, I have to remember that, what you're going through in a certain season, it's to build you to a point, a place of where God wants to bring you to make you stronger, and it's to encourage someone else. So with that being said, just to, like an overview of, just on what God has brought me from. I'm 27 years old. And, I'm going to be honest, like sometimes I am ashamed to say this, but I'm overcoming being ashamed to say that because I know God is, you know, doing a thing in me while I'm in this place. And I'm 27 years old. I still live at home with my parents. And like me personally, the reason why, right? The reason why I feel, sometimes ashamed to say that is because 5 years ago, I didn't think I would still be here in this place. And it's like, I try to, build myself and try to just do different things to, I guess you could say, level up to try to, be on my own. But the reality of it is, if I were not living at home, I'd probably be living in my car. Like that's the simple fact and reality of it. Like it just is what it is. And I thank God for my parents and who they are, and for allowing me to be able to do so. Um, but it's like even with me living at home, like people will tell me sometimes, like in just random conversation, and they'll mention, like bills that they have or rent, rent is high. And I empathize, I really do, because Like if I were had to put $2,500 of my paycheck towards rent, I would have nothing left over, nothing. And but I've had people tell me, you don't know what it's like to struggle in that area because you don't pay rent, you live at home with your parents. And I'm like, okay, I see where you're coming from, but that ain't true. Like I got,
I don't
but
necessarily.
oh, go ahead, go
I
ahead.
don't necessarily get when people say that because I live with my parents, single and married, and there's still. I'm not gonna put my parents' business out there, but it's when there's a need and you're with your parents and it's like you're trying to come together to meet the need. It's still it's not a struggle, but it's still like a mind battle for you to be like because it's especially when you're I don't know the mind battles. I don't know what my parents' minds were like when things were going on when they had all the I'm gonna say all the kids because they had me, all pretty much all the kids living with them. But praying for them, I was praying for them constantly when stuff was going on because it's like you want them to keep their mind because yeah you're grown but you're still leaning on your parents. So for me when people used to say that to me too like you don't know what struggle is, you don't know. I was like don't you say that because one the call my parents got in their life is twice as hard for them.
Exactly.
So and they live on a faith-based income.
Exactly.
So yeah, they have people in the household who work, but we still have to come together to do everything we need to do. And this is my public apology to them because sometimes I didn't do what I was supposed to do because I didn't understand. But and then I always got told when you get your own, you understand. And I understand now, and I understood then, but I didn't fully understand because I was like, I wanted to do this, but I have to do this for them. So now that I have my own household and own family, it's like you understand. So I he says he empathized, but I know from a place of living with your parents, like it's still hard because you wanna help as much as you can while you're there, and you may step back a little bit to do something for yourself, but you still wanna do as much as you can because it's your parents, it's your people's. Like I'll do. I say I get mad and say I'll never do nothing for y'all again. Like I don't say it to the face, but I say it to myself. But at the end of the day, it's like you're gonna do whatever you can for your parents. And I got, I like to say I got one old parent, one young parent, because my daddy old, but my mom not.
Not too
But
much, not too much.
but I got I won't say old parents, but older parents. They still got teenagers at home, but it's like you're gonna go if they ask you to come do something. My little silver bullet coming down Southern Boulevard, Southern as fast as it can. They don't go that fast, but they go fast when I wanted to go fast. So but that's just the thing. People don't really know what it's like to have a faith-based struggle when they haven't been through a faith-based struggle, whether it be financial, emotional, spiritual, physical. It's like any faith-based struggle on the mind, and it's always a mind battle first. And that's the main thing I pray for anybody I love is for their mind to be preserved because a mind battle is a hard thing to overcome. A mind battle will put you in a bubble to where it can probably either only take God and that one person to get you out. So I understand what you're saying. You say you empathize, but people treat you like you don't know. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah. And I appreciate you saying that. It's like confirmation of what God is bringing me through, and my place of just trusting in Him to get me through to the next level of where I decided to be at and where He wants me to be at. Um, so about last year, I would say honestly, last year was one of the most toughest financial spots I've been in. Um, and when I and this is my first time sharing this publicly, so I'm not gonna say any names or anything, but only about a handful of people know this. But I had a mentor last year who I trusted to get me in a place of you know understanding wealth and understanding how to maximize on investments and business realm and aspects because that's what I aspire to do. and eventually, bless others in that area and teach others, how to maximize and obtain wealth, the way God wants you to. Um, so I trusted him, this person to, as he said he would, get me to the next level. And, long story short, within that trust, well, I'll just say that I'll just skip to the end. Long story short, the that trust was broken, and in the result of that, all the money that I spent almost years of saving up was all gone. And I can say I lost about over $11,000 worth of money that I saved up working two jobs. Sometimes, sacrificing of what I can give a little extra to my parents and saving that instead so I can maximize on my wealth building so I can later give them more in return, if that makes sense. And I lost all of it. Um, you know, and I was in a point and place, and on not only that, on top of me losing all of it, um, I'm in school too currently, and that semester I didn't get approved for my financial aid, and I had to pay for my financial aid out of pocket, and it was $900 a month on top of the bills that I currently have. And honestly, I was like, okay, God, I said, something's got to give. I said, I need this degree. And, I've been in school for about almost 3 years, and I was supposed to have been done. It was like, I can't prolong this anymore. So, there was a lot of things that I had to sacrifice, a lot of things that I had to give up. Um, but through it all, with me talking and with my confiding in my leaders and confiding in my parents and ultimately confiding in God, he showed me another level of him, and not just Jireh but El Shaddai, who is more than enough. And in that place of more than enough, I noticed that it wasn't just more than enough of his provision and finances, but it was more than enough in his provision of peace and understanding of what I was going through and why I was going through what I was going through. Long story short, fast forward, um, uh, I turned 20. My birthday's January 4th, and I turned 27. And honestly, when I turned 27, it feels like a mental shift just went off of my brain. Like the day after my birthday. Again, I don't know if it's because of the new year or my birthday, but January 5th, 2025, something clicked in my brain. And, I feel like that was God just, saying to me that, you passed that season of, the trauma that you went through of losing what you thought, would bring you to the next place, but it's really going to be me, says the Lord, to me. And, in that, God, just this year alone, God has just allowed me to be able to expand my business. I have a vending machine business that, my pastors graciously allowed me to start here at our church. And for a whole year now, those machines have been out of order. And all of a sudden, long story short, run into this guy that I was trying to actually get rid of these machines. Long story short, very, very long story short, this guy um, was able to, and I had a little bit of money left over from my tax return, and I was just trying to make another investment and whatnot. And with that money left over from my tax return, um, I was able to, let's see, I had $2,500 left over. Because I was trying to pay my bills off early, credit cards, pay stuff down, pay that off. And the guy said, okay, instead of you using that $2,500 to buy you 2 new machines. I will come and fix your machines for less than half the price that you were going to pay. And I was like, huh? So he's only charging me $750 to come in and fix these machines, because the other people that I've looked into and asked to fix the machines, they charge an arm and a leg. And I'm like, I don't even know if I'm even willing to do that if I know they're just gonna break again. Because what I need fixed, what they were explaining to me, of what I could afford, would just put a bandage on the issue when it came to the compressor and whatnot of the machine. But he was saying he can not only fix the machines, but it won't just be a band-aid on the issue. Replace the compressor, add in new card readers in the machine, and update the control board on the machine for it to run efficiently and effectively for less than $1,000. I'm like, oh my God, really? He's like, yes. So all I had to do was just order the parts on its way. And I'll share another testimony. I came across an ad on Facebook of me shortly, like about less than a week after I made this deal. I came across a ad on Facebook of this guy selling 2 vending machines with the location included for for $2,000. So I was like, ooh, that's a steal. I gotta take that. So went we met up, spoke with him, and I spoke with him and everything like that. And he didn't have card readers on the machine. So we negotiated the price down to $1,500. So, but not only that, that's not the catch. The catch is that as we were discussing and conversing, we realized that we came from we got recruited by the same people in high school and whatnot, and we talking about sports and everything. Long story short, he actually offered to put in a card reader in one of the drink machines, so I wouldn't have to worry about adding a card reader to both machines. And then on top of that, the day we made the transaction sale, he filled up the machine. I was like, this is nobody but God.
Yeah.
So the investment I made that I was going to make with the little bit of money I had left over to do one thing, I was able to do almost 3 different things with it.
Yeah.
And, and that's just one facet of God just revealing to me that he is not just Jireh to me, but he is showing me that he is El Shaddai, more than enough.
Dang, I'm navigating my. But as you guys can see, walking in the will of God and accepting the call of God on your life opens doors when there are hard times. So we are going to wrap up, but before we wrap up, I do want to give a shout out to my sister here because she does have her book out, The Names of God. She thought I wasn't going to plug it in. She thought I was going to plug it in because I didn't do it at the beginning, but The Names of God, you can order it on Amazon, right?
Yes.
It is on Amazon. I don't know if she has physical copies. I like to have physical copies of books, and I don't trust Amazon. My wife ordered off Amazon. I don't. But it is on Amazon. You can look it up. The Names of God, right?
It's Discovering Jesus One Name at a Time.
Mm-hmm. Discovering Jesus One Name at a Time. See, look, I don't even get the name of stuff right because I don't have it in my hand. But if I know my sister, I know it's a great book, so I will have to tell my wife to order books so I can read it because I do. As much as I play video games and stuff, I do read more than just my Bible. So, and just a little plug out there for me, I do have my chef pop-up coming up June 2nd. Menu is out. There are no pre-orders. If you're going to pre-order, you better be pre-ordering a big plate. But menu is out June 2nd. Location is on the menu as well. Minister Mikeria also has her book club coming up as well. They will be reading my dad's book, Reach, which is a great book, by the way. If you have not gotten it, it is on Amazon as well. And wherever his Chris's vending machine is at, I would like to know but if it got halfway filled with Takis like the one at church, I'm gonna be mad because I can't eat Takis because it's too spicy for my stomach. But in Jesus' name. But thank you guys for tuning in, dealing with the technical difficulties we did have, and still listening anyways. We are on YouTube now at New Era Podcast. We will be putting this episode out via audio as well once it's been cut and edited and whatnot on Spotify podcast as well, which will probably be around Wednesday or Thursday of the upcoming week. Thank you guys for tuning in, and tune in next time in July where we have another very special guest. I'm not gonna call him that, but we have another very special guest. You don't know the topic yet, but he will. We will have a very. I'm not gonna say who it is either. I'm gonna leave it a surprise till the episode drops in July. July 12th is our next episode. Thank you guys for tuning in. Check out Living Epistles and Testimonial Expressions online. They do have great content as well. Great content, even greater content when queued up with us, but it's all for God. Thank you guys for tuning in.